Hey everyone, Daniel from WellSmart here. So I'm willing to bet most of you watching this video have a regular banking account, but I'm also willing to bet most of you who are watching don't have a tax-free savings account, and fewer still don't really know what it is or how to actually use it. So the whole point of this video is going to be to give you a bit of a history of the tax-free savings account, tell you what it is, and some of the best ways to use it. So perk up your ears and listen up. So usually I like to avoid the theory, but in this case it's important to know how the Tfsa came to be. So in 2009, after the global financial crisis that started in the United States, the global economy took a bit of a hit. As a result, people started taking money out of their accounts and pretty much putting it in their mattresses and pillowcases. Now, to stop that from happening further and to kind of reverse the effect, what the Canadian government did was they created the tax-free savings account, which essentially allowed people to put their money back in the account that they had before. But at this time, they were able to grow their investments, whatever they bought in there, whether they were mutual funds or stocks or bonds, without actually being taxed on it, which in a couple minutes you'll see it makes quite a bit of a difference. The only actual restrictions on the account, or to create the account, are that you need to be a Canadian citizen and be 18 years old. Other than that, basically every single financial institution out there gives you the opportunity to open this account. So you're probably wondering, well, what's the big deal with a tax-free savings account? Well, with a regular savings account, every single dollar that you earn on whatever investments you decide to put in there is eventually going to get taxed by the government every single year that you hold it in there for. With a tax-free savings account, that doesn't happen, so you get to keep the whole amount that you make over whatever period of time you hold your money in the investments. So let's use a bit of a numerical example to illustrate this. So we're going to assume that you save $10,000. And you're going to buy some sort of mutual fund that's going to pay you 5% every single year for a period of, let's say, 10 years. Now, you're going to have to trust my math on this one, but after 10 years, you're going to have roughly $16,000. So in 10 years, you made about 60%, which is not too bad, to be honest. However, it would be all fine and dandy if you got to keep this whole amount, but under a regular savings account, you have to pay taxes every single year, and that's the killer. Because once you subtract all these taxes, and in this case I assume 29% every single year, which by the way is a pretty reasonable amount, simply because it's the tax rate for people between $45,000 a year and around $70,000, which even if you're 18 years old right now, in 10 years, it's pretty much guaranteed you're going to be somewhere in between that, so you're going to be taxed accordingly. So after subtracting those 29% in taxes, you're only left with around $14,000. So essentially you lost $2,000 on taxes simply because you picked the wrong account. With a tax-free savings account, all you have to do is sign the form and you get to keep the whole $16,000. So for this part of the video, I have good news and bad news. The bad news is that there's actually a limit to how much you can put in the account, so you can't keep dumping millions of dollars in it. The good news is that unless you're already rich, you probably won't see this as much of a restriction. So let me tell you how it works. So since 2009, when the government first initiated the whole program, they've allowed you a certain amount to invest in this account every single year. Now, if you were to start your first tax-free savings account today, in 2017, not only would you be allowed to put in the $5,500 allocated for 2017, but you'd be allowed to put in all the amounts up until this year, for a grand total of exactly $52,000. So unless you have $52,000 or more than $52,000 in your account, this isn't really much of a limit for you, especially because chances are next year it's going to go up by the same amount as well. So there's really no way for you to be able to max out your tax-free savings account unless you already have a huge chunk of money. Maybe you got some sort of inheritance, or maybe you won the lottery. So this is my favorite part of the video, because if knowledge is power, you're about to become a personal finance master. So the number one trick to the tax-free savings account is actually very simple. You have to invest the money in something. The biggest misconception that people have is that the tax-free savings account just pays you some sort of percentage every year just for kind of holding your money in there, which is not strictly speaking wrong. They do pay you exactly 0.45% on whatever amount you hold in cash in there, but considering that inflation in Canada is around 1.5%, if you just keep your money in cash, you're actually losing about 1% every single year. So Rule number one, don't ever hold your money in cash in the tax-free savings account unless you actually plan on using it maybe in the next couple of months. But then at that point, you don't really need to put in a tax-free savings account because it's really designed for investment purposes. So the best way, and to be honest, the only way that you can use the tax-free savings account is to actually invest in something with the money that you put in there. And it could be really anything. It could be stocks, it could be bonds, it could be mutual funds, it could be all kinds of other investments. Now, if you're not the type of person to do it yourself, that's perfectly fine. You can get a financial advisor who'll do it for you. That's what you pay them, right? And hopefully you'll make some sort of returns on whatever they decide to invest for you. But don't just keep it in cash, because the way that I like to think of it and that I usually explain it to other people is think of the tax-free savings account as a jar of dirt. If you don't actually plant any seeds in there, 10 years from now, a jar of dirt is still going to be a jar of dirt. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed the video on the tax-free savings account. I hope it was educational and it taught you something. It's actually the first account that I ever made, and it's kind of how I got into the whole investing thing. And to be honest, until recently, I myself didn't really know how to use it properly until I actually started working in the industry. So it's not very uncommon for people to not really understand it. And I think the reason for that is just because it's explained in such a convoluted way whenever you go to the bank or you see their pamphlets or go on websites or something like that. And I think they do it on purpose just to kind of make you go back and feel like they're needed. But really, there's not that much to it, as long as you understand that one simple concept, which is don't just keep it in cash. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any other questions or suggestions for videos or anything else that you guys want me to cover that you're kind of confused about, give me a message, either comment on this video or send my actual page a message, and I'll be sure to reply to you and hopefully make a video out of it. So take care.